Hello and welcome back to another edition of Your Road to Financial Independence. My name is Michael Riskin, president of CPS Investment Advisors. I'm here, as always, with my partner Peter Galacco, CEO of CPS Investment Advisors. How you doing today, Pete?
I am a little nervous.
Yeah.
I usually love doing these and talking about how to become financially independent, but then we get talks like today that just should not be even talked about on a financial podcast.
That's right. A hot topic issue, something that's all over the news, something we've had to we've been taking a lot of calls on, and we felt like, let's get in front of it. Let's reassure folks, calm them down a little bit, reassure folks that everything's going to be okay, and discuss a little bit. And of course, the topic, we're not talking about the presidential election because that's over.
We don't have to talk about that for a little bit.
But it has a political tone to it, which is
why I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Politics should not be involved in your financial decisions.
That's right. But today, of course, we are going to be talking about tariffs.
Oh, tariffs.
Tariffs. Yeah, it's been on the headlines and certainly created a little market volatility the last couple of weeks. And so I think we'll do a deep dive, not too deep of a dive, but talk about tariffs a little bit of history. But really, what we're trying to focus on here is how it will affect the financial markets, how it's going to affect volatility in the markets, and really what we see looking forward, and not get too deep into the weeds on this. So
you get too deep in the weeds, you find out that you can go in a lot of different directions.
That's right.
I think you really got to go back to the beginning, when tariffs first started. A lot of people don't realize that the first Tariff Act was signed in 1789 by George Washington.
So right from the start,
the U.S. had an act that allowed them to put tariffs on countries that sent goods in. Okay. And what they were trying to do is they're trying to keep larger countries from flooding their markets with their cheap goods and not allowing their own people to sell their chickens or their eggs or their poultry or whatever they're selling at that time. Right. So, you go fast forward, and I believe it was 1946 at the end of the Second World War. America was very generous in the help to rebuild the world.
Right.
A lot of countries in Europe, Russia, they were destroyed by this war. So the Tariff Act, we allowed other countries to put tariffs on our goods as our way of paying towards.
As a way to help them rebuild Europe.
Yeah, that was our contributions to that.
Right.
The problem is a lot of people want to blame tariffs on the current administration, the previous administrations after that. But really, you got to look at the 70s and the 80s. When was Europe rebuilt? And why were the tariffs continuing?
Right.
So there's a lot of tariffs out there that have been on the books since the original 1946.
Right. And these are tariffs on American goods that have been going out to other countries.
Correct.
Right.
And you made a good point earlier on automobiles.
Right.
If you leave the United States, how many Fords do you see on the road?
Yeah, we've done some traveling in Europe, and you don't see American cars.
You don't see American cars because it's too expensive for Europeans to buy American cars.
Right.
We have tariffs on our American cars.
Right.
That leveled the playing field. If we wanted to bring them over there, we had to pay a pretty big price. So that leveled the playing field and allow Europe to sell their cars made in Europe to allow their economy to grow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really, I mean, you just mentioned 1946. I mean, so that's well over 70 years now, through all sorts of administrations, Republican and Democrat.
Yeah, it's not. It has no.
It's not really a party affiliation.
Basis on the party. It has to do with bureaucrats not stepping up to the plate and saying, "Hey, enough's enough."
Right.
All right. So right now we're in a situation where tariffs are being used to kind of right some wrongs.
Okay.
And we talked about tariffs early on, and I remember very vividly talking about the first quarter of this year on our last podcast.
That's right.
And how we're going to have a rough time in the first quarter. The economy is, GDP should go up. The economy should go up. The stock market should go up on the year basis. But it's the first quarter. That's really the only thing I'm concerned about is some of the changes that they're going to be bringing about could scare some people.
Right. And we always talk about the stock markets in particular are very emotionally driven.
They are.
And
in the short term.
Correct. And the biggest reason for that is uncertainty. And so even though now we know who the administration is and we know what Congress is going to look like, there's still a little bit of uncertainty of what exactly is going to happen, right?
That's correct.
We've heard the policies, we've heard the proposals, but until they're actually enacted,
That's correct. And how people react to
and
it.
how they react to it, right?
You know, and the media has a lot of power in,
Sure.
in what our country thinks. And if we get a certain message, it could damper people's excitement for a little while. Because this administration is going to come in and they're going to start barking
That's right.
the bully pulpit.
Yep.
So you don't have to go
We have a president right now who's one of the bigger bullies.
one of the bigger bullies.
That's right.
Absolutely. So the way he moves the box is to get up and start bullying people around.
The U.S. is still by far, and it's not even remotely close, the biggest consumers on the planet.
Yep.
And so from an economic standpoint and a negotiating standpoint, these types of economic pressures have a lot of weight.
Right.
And certainly in the media these days, there's been a lot of, obviously this is a big headline maker. And like you said earlier, the tariffs is something that was in the playbook. I mean,
Yep.
This presidency and this administration ran on the fact, and a little bit on the first term too.
Correct.
Hey, I'm going to use tariffs to bring them to the negotiating table. And so I think a lot of people's fear is, these tariffs are going to last 70 years.
Oh, no.
And those types of things. But if the damage that can be done by the tariffs to these other countries is so severe that bringing them to the negotiating table, and so far what we've seen is it has worked, that they've come running to the table.
That's correct. And you saw in I think it was Ottawa,
Ontario,
where they were going to start taxing our citizens for power as a retaliation.
Right.
And Trump goes, well, I'm going to tax you 50% on your steel.
Right.
Well, that shut everybody up.
Right. I think in being careful not to, again, dive too deep into the political part, our investors want to know, okay, Mike and Pete, that's great. Are tariffs good or bad? And I think that the message that we're trying to tell our clients is, look, it's not whether tariffs are good or bad. It's, our belief here is that it's being used as a negotiating tactic, and it's going to create volatility in the markets in the short run, which we've said since the beginning.
Yep.
Because one thing the market does not like is unpredictability, uncertainty. And right now we have a little bit of that. And so as he gets into his presidency and we figure out whether some of these tariffs are going to take hold or not, or maybe the things will get resolved and they'll go away, that'll help shape, somewhat the direction of the market. And even if the tariffs take hold, let's just say they stick around for a while, one thing that these Fortune 500 companies are really good at, and I've said this, I say this all the time, is they just need to know what the rules of the game are.
Yep.
Right? Are they?
They'll figure it out.
Because whether in a high regulatory, and certain administrations are super high regulatory, which can potentially harm industries. Some administrations are low regulatory. Some are high tax, low tax, high tariff, low tariff. Whatever the rules of the game are, if I'm the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I just need to know what they are, and then I can run my company in that direction.
Well, you saw what Apple just did. So he put 10% tariffs on China, and didn't stop coming, another 10%. Apple's now investing $900 billion into, and might be off maybe 90 billion, but they're investing it back into the United States to start manufacturing iPhones here in the US. That's what happens is, instead of them being able to go across seas and get really cheap labor and help our enemies, they're bringing it back to the US and helping people get jobs, helping them afford their mortgages. Some things are good.
Right.
Some things are bad. I just don't think it's going to affect the economy long term. These tariffs didn't cause unemployment to go down. So people are still working.
Right.
Their jobs are pretty secure, because if these tariffs go through, we're going to be buying more products from the United States. So there's going to be more demand here.
Yeah. And
there's some good things that the United States can see. We just got to turn the TV off. There's so much bad news out there, Mike, and it doesn't matter where you are.
Right.
There's just so much bad news.
And I think that is, again, where you bring up uncertainty, I think that is the concern from a lot of folks I speak to, is that if the tariffs are prolonged, could it increase unemployment? Could it harm the economy? And so that's still to be determined. We think this is more of a negotiating tactic, and we'll see. But again, companies are really great. their primary responsibility is to their shareholders
It is.
and returning profits. And so they're really good at adapting and adjusting to that type of thing. And we saw, you mentioned, or you alluded to having taken over control of our own manufacturing and stuff. And I think we saw that a lot during COVID too.
We did.
Where, all of a sudden we realized like all the Tylenol in the world is being made in China or Southeast Asia. And you're like,
most of our
my God.
Our medications are.
Right. And so you start realizing those things, like other countries could really harm us in a horrible way. And it doesn't have anything, we could have the best military in the world, but if they're doing other things,
If we're
to
dying
our
of
folks,
strokes because of high blood pressure,
Correct.
or something, yeah,
And
so
so
there's safety things along
correct.
with
There's
that
certain
too.
things that happen that kind of make you rethink national security. So, obviously we're not, pro tariff or
No,
I think we're pro getting it, protecting our economy, pro fairness. And so,
and the economy and the market, I think it's almost a so what, because it's not going to last long.
that's our
As
belief.
long as people understand what the game is,
Right.
the world understand what the game is, at least for the next 4 years, things are going to get back to normal.
Right.
So it's not the government that drives the market and the economy, it's you and I.
Right.
And everybody else who goes to the store, who opens up their wallet, and who pays for goods.
Right.
And we want to think the government handles all that.
Right. And I think the fear and the volatility is, again, people doing the what ifs. So
what ifs.
And no one really truly knows what will happen with certain things. And it's not like every single item in the world is all of a sudden going to go up because of this.
But I think you've got to look back into history and see what's happened over time. Times like these are buying opportunities.
And I love that you got to that point.
It is, there's very few times
Right.
that you can take some extra cash and buy things on sale. A lot of people say, the market was really high. The market was really high. Well, the market's being driven down by some really high flying stocks that grew a lot. But when that happens, it drives everything
That's
down,
right.
the good stuff down
That's
too.
right. That's right.
And now you can buy some stuff on sale. And I love buying things on sale.
We sure do.
And I know,
We love a little volatility in the
and I
market.
know my clients don't like me say that, but I love when the market goes down because we can buy stuff.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know,
Especially,
so
like you said, the good stuff is rarely on sale.
rarely on
Is
sale.
rarely on sale. And so these this type of volatility creates great buying opportunities. And you look, we have a over 30-year history at our firm of doing this type of investing, and it's worked incredibly well. You look at experts that are the Buffetts of the world, the Peter Lynch's, that's how they made their billions by buying low when the market's
When people want to
sell
their stuff, and they
right.
want to give it to you, you're there to buy it. Now, when they want it back at a much higher price, that's when you give it back to them. But you've got to be in the market. You got to understand that that's what works, and it's painful at times because markets go down. When you listen to the news, everything's bad, 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 bad.
right.
Well, not everything's bad.
Right.
So I'm pretty excited about the future.
Right.
Actually, the rest of this year. But I told everybody last year before we started, the first quarter is going to be horrible. It always is on a transition. And a transition this big, it's there's going to create some fear.
It's because of the uncertainty. And right now tariffs are in the headlines, and that's what's on everybody's mind. But in a few months from now, it's going to be the tax package.
Oh yeah, the tax package is going to change everything. We're going to forget about the tariffs. We're going to be worried about that. The government's going to go broke because there's always
There's gonna be
something that's. But these are things, if it goes around, if it's from the government, about the government, you can turn that noise off. Very little they do affects what we do on our buying.
Right. And folks at home, we have no control over what's going on in Washington.
Nope.
Right. And so, we're certainly incredibly respectful. We have a lot of clients that are incredibly worried about this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are losing sleep over it. And I think,
Please don't lose sleep over it. It's not something that, in a week or so, you're right. It's going to be another big headline that's going to cause you to lose a little bit of sleep.
Yeah.
Just understand that that's how they scare us into doing things that we shouldn't be doing.
that's right. And I think, investing in the right way, the right companies, getting those dividend checks.
Yeah. And you're right, Mike. It's about the companies. You're not investing in the market. You're investing in companies.
That's right.
Take a look at what the companies are doing. Has Pepsi stopped selling Pepsi Cola? A lot of people thought when RFK came in, no more Pepsi Cola.
That's right.
it's, a lot of these things that people talk about never really come to fruition.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly right.
take a step back, take a deep breath.
Yep.
You got some extra cash. Now's the time.
Now is a good time
Yep,
to put
now's
some
the
extra cash to work for sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Pete. I appreciate it. Hopefully we help some of our clients think a little better. I think the message again is tariffs are nothing new.
Nope.
They've happened across Republican and Democrat administrations, both against imports and against our exports. This is certainly a negotiating tactic to bring some certain concerns to the table, and the markets will react in an unstable way for a while, but they'll get back to normal. This could be a good buying opportunity. But thanks, Pete. I appreciate, as always, some insight, and thank you all for listening and watching. Hopefully, again, this has been educational for you, and tune into our YouTube channel or anywhere else where you get your podcast for other additional educational content. We've got a lot of things rolling out here in 2025. Thanks again for watching. And if you'd like to contact us, feel free at info@cpsinvest.com, as well as 863-688-1725. And look forward to doing this again soon. Thanks again. Bye.